Okay, here we are with the Altea, and we're going to re-wick it. The reason I wanted to start with the Altea is because it's one of the most difficult wicking I've seen. And if you get it wrong, you get it really wrong, and you have juice flowing everywhere. Now, if you can wick this RDTA, you can wick any RDTA, no problem. Okay, so a few tools I've made. I've taken a sewing needle, and I took my daughter's pencil, and I found a sewing needle that fit inside the pencil. I did that so I can move the needle in and out, and I can really get into those juice ports on small RDTAs. You see that hook I put on the end? When I bent that, I heated it up red hot with a lighter, and I bent it over, and I let it cool down. So now I have a little hook tool. Another thing I did is I took a sharpening stone and I polished the end here. It won't poke your skin, won't go into your skin. It's rounded off, and it's perfect for picking cotton through the juice ports. I have one other one. It's the same thing. I took a pencil from my daughter, and I found a sewing needle that fit inside, and she gave it to me. All I did with this one is I rounded the end so it won't actually poke you. It's not sharp. It won't catch the cotton. Okay? And I use this for probing to see if the cotton's too tight. The other one, I use it for pulling the cotton through. So this is for pulling the cotton. It's for pulling the cotton, this bottom one, the pink one, and this top one, the straight one. That is for probing, and I'll show you how we use those. First, I'm going to wick. I'm going to wick this Altea. If you can wick this Altea properly, you can wick any RDTA, I promise you. So I'll be using cotton bacon. It's a cotton bacon prime. Out of all the cotton, and I've tried most cotton, this is the best cotton. So that's what I'm using. So the thing with cotton bacon and an RDTA this size, you don't need much cotton. I'm just going to prepare the cotton. I don't know if we're going to show it on camera, but I'm just going to make the cotton ready to go through. All I'm doing is I'm stripping off enough, what I think is enough cotton. For these coils are 2 millimeters. So I gotta judge on how much cotton I think I need for 2 millimeters. I'll spend as much time on it as I can to make it perfect because it's a video. Normally I'll go through this actually relatively fast if it was just me, but because of the video, I kind of want to be quicker about it. And I want my cotton to be perfect because of the video. So let's make it perfect. And I want the perfect size for the cotton. And you want the cotton on the left and the right to be even. So I have what I think is enough cotton to wick both those coils evenly. So it's a very small deck. It's really hard to work on. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get my scissors right here. We got scissors. I'm going to cut this cotton in half like this. There we go. I have 2 pieces. I'm going to run them through the coils now. I have to turn them. All I do is I roll them like this. Like I said, this is really good cotton, really absorbent. It's the new cotton from Cotton Bacon, the newest version, and it's great. Okay, so I ran one side through. I'm going to run through the other side. Just twist off one end, lightly roll it through my fingers so it'll fit through. Same thing, just thread it through those coils. This is the easy part, trust me. Because in a minute, I got to run it through those juice ports. This is the hard part. Okay, So now I got the cotton going through the coils, and I'm just going to cut them off. You can see the portholes are here. They're down here. So this cotton has to go down. I have to cut it off at those portholes because it's going to go down at least to those portholes. A good rule with all these RDTAs when you're wicking them is pull the cotton down to the porthole and cut it off there. That's what I'm going to do now. I can see the portholes. I'm going to pull the cotton down to the porthole and cut them. Just like this. Pull them down. I can see it. Cut. Snip. Now I've cut one. I want the other one to be the same, so I'm actually going to cut it the same length as this one. Just like that. See that? Those two both go to the portholes down here. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to do the same thing. Cut one to the porthole. Right there. And I'm going to cut the other one on the other side the same as this one. Like that. Perfect. What they call this, what I just did, is what they call that a bow tie. You can see why they call it the bow tie. So I've made a bow tie. All that cotton goes down to those portholes. And you can see these portholes are tiny. That's a lot of cotton for those portholes. So if I stuff it in there, it'll be too tight. So I'm going to cut it up and thin it out a bit. That's what I use these for. Actually, the best way to do it is to use these tweezers we have here. Okay? This is the best way. I'm going to use this pin. The tweezers are too big for this. And I'm going to thin out this cotton. You'll see what I'm doing on the camera. I'm thinning out this cotton. It's okay to thin it out. There's a lot there. And that cotton's no good. We just throw it away. We don't need it. There's a lot of cotton there. And you can see I keep checking, even as I'm thinning it, I keep checking the length. Okay? Because if it goes too long, I got to cut it again. Instead, I just kind of pull it off. That's why they call it cotton bake. Now this looks good. This side looks good, and you want them nice and fluffy. So I fluff it up. You can do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to thin that cotton out a bit. Just like that. See that? You pull it off. Just pull it off. Thin it out. Thin it out. Pull it off. This is important for you noobs out there. You haven't done this before. Okay, you got to thin out and fluff up your cotton. Nice and fluffy. See that? Fluffy, fluffy, fluffy. Because you want good juice flow through them, but you don't want it to leak. Okay? So now, this is the hard part. This is the most difficult part, and this is the part I was getting wrong for the longest time, and it takes some practice. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to feed this cotton through those portholes, and I can tell you it's the biggest pain in the butt, because if it's too tight, it won't wick. If it's too loose, it will leak, and I might even still have too much cotton on here. It's hard to judge. But with cotton bacon, the reason they call it cotton bacon is so you can peel it off in strips. That's where the name bacon comes from. You can peel it off in strips. So I've thinned these out. I'm going to feed them through the portholes with my tweezers here. The portholes are tiny. Very tiny. Okay, it's hard to do on camera. You can see I've done it there on this side. I'll do this side so you can see it from the camera perspective. Okay, I'm just going to take this, I'm going to put it together, and I'm going to feed it through those portholes. The porthole is there, just like that. Some guys will say, "Oh, just place it. Oh, just place it over the porthole." Yeah, well, that's going to leak, man. I'll show you a system. Those guys have wicked hundreds of different tanks. They're expert wickers. They can wick these in, 5 seconds. Okay? As a noob, as a beginner, like I was when I started, I'm going to show you how to wick these. And it's okay to put the cotton. You can stuff it in there to make sure the porthole is covered. And I'll show you why I'm stuffing it. It's not even actually that It's not even actually that tight. But you gotta make sure that these portholes are full of cotton. Okay, turn it around. I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm going to take the cotton, I'm going to put it through into the juice well, which is right below. I don't know if you can see it on camera. The juice well, you can see, is right below each side. Right in there, each side of these atomizer coils. Okay, so I'm just going to shove it down in there. I don't care if it's tight or loose. I'll show you why in a minute. Okay, that's in there pretty good. I just need it loosely in there. This is too much cotton. I can tell by looking at it that's too much cotton. Okay, it's going to block the juice flow. So I'm going to take a little bit more cotton off. It's okay to do that. It's cotton bacon. Okay, I'm going to place the end of this down into that juice well. Right down there. See? It's where the juice comes in. I'm going to check all sides. Now, it's just placed in there. That's all it is. It's just simply placed in there. Okay? It's just placed in there. Now I'm going to adjust it with my tool I showed you that I made. This, it's a pin, a needle, a sewing needle, inside of a pencil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it down there perfectly. It's going to allow me to place it, and it's also going to allow me to probe it to see how tight it is. I'll be able to feel how tight it is with this. Now, you don't need to take your sewing needle and put it in a pencil like I have. I did it so it's easier to hold. At first, before I did this, I was actually using a sewing needle just like this, and I was just using my fingers. Right? I just had my fingers and I was just using, but to hold it better, I put it inside of a pencil. Now I'm going to adjust the cotton inside of the portholes. I'm pushing this right down. I can feel the bottom of that porthole. And I can feel how tight that cotton is. And I don't care if it's tight right now. I just want it covered. Because the last thing you want is a leak. It's covered, I'm fine. I want it covered. These are not tight at all. I can feel them. This one's a little tight, but I'll show you how to deal with that. Let's leave it tight for now. I'm going to flip it over. Do the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to make it nice and neat. Nice and neat. Going to the bottom of that juice well. Here we are, pushing it in. Okay, and I want that cotton right under these two atomizer coils is the airflow. So the air comes from right underneath them. You keep the cotton away from there. I'm pushing it away from the airflow. Now, what we're looking for here is, you can see on the side, I have 4 juice portholes. 1, 2, and on the other side 3, 4. And if you look closely, you can see the cotton there. You have to be able to see the cotton, or you haven't done it right. Okay? A lot of these guys on YouTube, they're really good at this, and they don't realize the little things that they actually do and that they look for, and they don't mention it. I'm telling you right now, this is it. You have to look at these portholes, and you got to make sure you can see that cotton stuffed down in there. And I've probed it. I know it's not very tight. It's not tight. That's going to wick just fine with all that cotton. When it's tight, you can feel it with this. You can feel it with this pin if it's too tight. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at it. I'm going to look at it. I can see all that cotton. It's covering these little portholes down here. You see it? Now the next thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to take my other tool, which is here with that hook on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that cotton through that juice port. I'm going to pull it through. That's the only thing this tool is for. Okay, because I've had a lot of leaks. Learning how to do this took me a long time. See, you don't have to have any leaks or make any mistakes, because I'm showing you now how it should be done. You take this hook tool and you pull that cotton through like this. I'm going to do it on all 4, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'll try and keep it in camera when I do it, but it'll be tough because it's so small. So I'm just going in and I'm hooking that cotton onto this bent needle, basically. And I'm just pulling it out. I'm putting it in once, I'm spinning it, and I'm pulling it out through that juice port. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want to see. Otherwise you'll leak. And there's nothing worse having an RDTA leaking. It's the worst thing. I'm going to go through, pull them all through. Oh, that looks excellent. That looks awesome. That's what you want, because you're going to have good wicking. Good wicking, but you're not going to have leaking. Okay? So let's take a look. Now that I've pulled the cotton through all of them. You see? That's a really good job. That's a really good job. I'm really happy with that. Now, I'm able to do that simply because I took these and I put the very tip of that cotton, and I put the tip down at the bottom of these juice ports. So when I went to hook it and pull it through, it just came right through. It just came right through with this guy, our hook. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the cotton a little bit. Now that we know it's filling up that hole, and we're going to pull it up a bit, just like that. Pull it up a bit because I want some big pieces of cotton on the side of these atomizers. I want some big pieces to really hold that juice and really wick it well. Okay? So I'm just taking my hook tool again, and I'm pulling the cotton up, just like I did here. I just pulled it up on the ends. I'll do it here on this one so you can actually see it. I'm just going to pull that cotton up, like that. Just pulling it up, just a little bit. Here, it's hard to do on camera, but that's what I'm doing. You can see I just pulled that up, so I have a big puff of nicely loose cotton bacon prime sitting right beside there. But you can see I still have this wick sticking out. I still have it sticking out of these portholes, these juice ports. I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off. I have a small pair of scissors just to do this. Here they are. These are actually nose hair scissors. Nose hair scissors are perfect for doing this. Okay? So this one's not too bad. I'm going to leave it. But you can see this one over here on the left, on your, I guess the left, there's a lot coming out of there. I don't want it there. I'm going to cut it off. It's okay to cut it. There's too much cotton there. Okay. Now that I've cut it off, it's still there. I'm going to push it back up through that porthole a little bit. Now this is where it gets tedious. This is the most important part. Is it going to wick? Is it going to be too tight? Or is it going to leak because I haven't done this right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slightly push each of those portholes up. Push the cotton in those portholes. I'm just going to push them back up into place with each of them. Just like that. And I'm going to take a really good look at this. See that? I just pulled some cotton off. That's fine. I'm going to take a really close look at this. So I'm pushing it up into those portholes. Pulling it up. You see that? Pushing it up. Now, this looks really good. It looks amazing, actually. It's a really good job. I must hand it to myself. What we have here is we have a good wicked atomizer, and at the bottom of each of these portholes, I can see the cotton. If you can't see that cotton, you're going to leak. You must see that cotton. But I can also shove this probe in there, and it will be nice and loose. I don't want to move the cotton, but yeah, I can feel it. Yeah, that's not packed at all. Because I have this probe, I can tell you it's not packed at all. It's going to wick just fine. So it's blocking. It's blocking the free flow of juice coming through the portholes down here. It's blocking that with cotton, with loosely packed cotton. It's exactly what you want. Otherwise, it's going to leak. And you wouldn't believe how much juice I've wasted not knowing this. So, just so you know, when you put that cotton, use a probe, a pin, a sewing needle, and probe it. Okay, if it's too tight, you're not going to wick. You won't wick properly, and you're going to leak. Okay, and I'm looking at these holes in the center. I want to keep the cotton away from those holes. And wow, this is actually pretty loose. This one here is actually perfect. That's exactly what if I could do that every time, I'd be an expert, which I can't. But I'm probing. Yeah. These are perfect. They go down at the bottom. They take up all the space that we need them to. You can see the cotton at the portholes. You can see the cotton at the portholes, but they're not too tight. Okay? Now, this RDTA is ready for priming. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. I'm just going to grab a bit of juice. Here we are. We've got our juice. We don't really need our probing tools anymore. We might. Okay. I'm going to show you how to prime this. This must be primed properly. So for priming, we're going to wet these coils with some juice. We're not going to vape it, but we're going to wet them up. And we're going to wait. Okay? I'm hitting the coils first because that's ultimately where we want it to wick to. Pull it right up into those coils. Okay? So I'm priming it. I'm going to prime it some more. It takes a second or two for the juice to really sink in. It's virgin cotton. It will absorb a lot, but you want to give it some time. So okay. I really let it prime by itself. Really, just let it soak up. Give it a second. And what I do, here's the trick. Now I'm going to look at these portholes to see if it's wicked downward. It has. That cotton's no longer white. It's the same exact color as the vape juice. That's how you know it's wicking down. It's wicking perfectly. Okay? I can tell you right now it's wicking. Now, I didn't bring it today to shoot this video, but normally what I would do is I would take a lighter, a cigarette lighter, and I would just quickly flash the cotton with a flame. That will burn off all these little hairs, and for those first couple hits, it won't taste so much like cotton. But this is ready. I'm going to call this primed. I'm just going to hit it with a little bit more juice. This is ready. Okay. Notice I turned it off. There we go. Going to hit it. Just there we go. That's enough. That's enough. Now, I'm going to reassemble it. Okay. We put our this atomizer. This is the atomizer section. We're going to put our combustion hood on, or I don't know what they would call this. This is the combustion chamber. Okay. The atmospheric chamber is what they call it. I asked a scientist this 2 months ago. That's called an atmospheric chamber. Okay, well, we're not going to call it that. We're just going to put this on. This is basically the chimney. We're going to throw that on. Okay. And you can see at the bottom of the chimney, right down here, that's where the juice is going to come in. Right there, right along here. And I can see juice pouring down in there from when I primed it. I'm going to clean it up a little bit, just like this, with some paper towel. Okay. This is pretty much ready. It looks nice and clean. I can check the portholes again. They look good. What I'm going to do now it's the cotton will stretch out. It'll stretch out inside those portholes. I'm just going to push them up a little bit. I'm throwing my hook in. I'm just pushing it up because I don't want them to act like plugs. I'm just pushing it up so the juice can evenly flow down into there. And then the cotton on top will just grab it and soak it up into the coils. And it's giving a little push on the bottom. Now, with this tank, that's ready for the tank. Here's the tank. I'm just going to throw the tank on now, just like that. Okay. Now the tank is on. I'm going to fill this with juice. Right down at the bottom where you see the juice now, that's where it's absorbing the juice from. Just in that one spot. The more juice you put on it, the more pressure it puts on those portholes. This is only a 4 milliliter tank, so it doesn't fit very much. Okay. Now, we're going to wait and we're going to see if we have a leak. Okay. I'm going to fill it up and see if we have a leak. If you have a leak, all you do is you put the cap on the top and you simply turn it upside down. It will stop leaking and save your juice. Okay, so I'm just going to put some pressure on this by filling it up. So that's full. We are full of juice. Okay, now we're going to cap it off. Cap it off. Always get the cap on there as fast as possible, because if it starts leaking, you need the cap on there to stop it by turning it upside down. Okay, so I'm going to put the cap on. The cap is on. Clean it up a little bit. This is the same juice that was in it before, so I'm not worried about, having two different juices in there. It's not 100% clean. Now we put our drip tip on. Okay. Now, the final part of priming this new wick is we're going to close off the airflow. We're going to close it off. Okay, and I'm going to pull on it with no air, just like this. There's the air open. Okay. Now I'm going to pull on it with the air closed. That'll pull the juice up into the wick. This is a secret. That feels nice and tight. I can tell by just pulling on that I've closed off the airflow and I've pulled it up. I've created that vacuum. Now we're going to open it up. That seems good. There you go. The Altea. This isn't just for the Altea. This is for any 4 or 5 mil, very small RDTA. This is how you would wick it. It's exactly the same for all of them. Okay, finally I want to say, when you've set up the tank and you know it's running right, is because you can look at the bottom of these juice ports and you can see the cotton. You can see it. And as you vape, what's going to happen is you're going to see bubbles coming up from these juice ports. That means you're wicking perfectly. It's running 100%. Okay? You're not leaking. Nothing's coming out of the, if it leaks, it's going to come out of the air holes down here. But when you vape it a few times, you see those air bubbles coming up. It means the cotton is placed perfectly, and it's good cotton. It's cotton bake and prime, so it's going to last a while. It's going to take a lot of heat, and it's going to be very absorbent. And if you look at these portholes, most important thing, and I don't see a lot of people mentioning this on other videos, is you must be able to see the cotton through those portholes on this particular unit. And I assume that that's the same for all these other units that are about the same size. You need to block them with cotton, but you can't have them too tight. That's what this probe that I'm holding here is for, to check the cotton to make sure it's too tight. When it leaks, it's going to leak through these air holes down here. Okay, I just vaped it. You can see I just vaped it. It was wicking perfectly. Okay. This is one of the best tanks for flavor because of the size and the way it's configured. The reason I use RDTAs is for flavor. Okay, I don't like those atomizer coils. They don't taste as good. So this is the true secret, is looking at those portholes and seeing a little bit of cotton that you pulled through and then pushed back up. The cotton is perfect. It's not leaking, and it's running excellent. That's how you're going to quit smoking. This is TheGig. I'm John. Don't forget to like and subscribe down here. Like, subscribe, questions, comments on this tank or any other tank like it, or just vaping in general, no problem.